The Solstice Room of the Grand Regency was a sanctuary of old-world excess. It was a space designed to intimidate. Soaring ceilings adorned with gold leaf, hand-carved mahogany paneling, and massive crystal chandeliers that drip with light, casting a diamond-like shimmer across the marble floors. This was the inner sanctum of the Vanguard Circle, an elite group of old-money families who controlled the city's real estate and politics. In the center of this world stood Elena Sterling, the self-appointed queen of the circle. Elena was a woman who measured human value by the date of a family's arrival on the Mayflower. She was holding court near a fluted marble pillar, a glass of $2,000 bottle Petrus in her hand. Near the edge of the circle stood Naomi Cole. Naomi was dressed in a simple, flawlessly tailored cream silk dress that draped like liquid. She was quiet, her hands folded in front of her, her eyes moving across the room with a calm, analytical focus. She didn't have a glass in her hand. She didn't need the social lubrication the others relied on. Naomi was a newly appointed director of the Urban Trust, the organization that held the land leases for nearly every building the Vanguard Circle owned. But to Elena Sterling, Naomi was just a guest of a guest, who didn't look like she belonged in the Solstice Room. "I'm sorry, dear," Elena said, her voice cutting to polite murmur the room like a shard of glass. "I don't believe the catering staff are allowed to linger in the Solstice Room. The service station is in the foyer." The social jury, a group of 5 men and women in bespoke tuxedos and gowns, paused their conversations. They didn't intervene. They simply adjusted their positions to better view the coming spectacle. At a nearby table, a young man sat drinking water, talking quietly to his partner, while the rest of the room watched Naomi. Naomi didn't flinch. "I'm not part of catering staff. Elena, I'm Naomi Cole. I'm here to discuss the lease renewals for the Sterling Plaza." Elena's eyes flashed with sharp, ugly light. The idea that this woman held the power over her family's flagship building was an insult to her very existence. "The Sterling Plaza has been in my family for 3 generations. We don't discuss its future with directors who appear out of nowhere." "Actually," Naomi replied, her voice steady and echoing off the mahogany walls, "your family has been a tenant for 3 generations. The land belongs to the trust, and the trust is currently auditing your compliance." The circle of elites bristled. Elena's hand tightened on her wine glass. She looked at Naomi's cream dress, the symbol of her quiet, unbought elegance, and felt a wave of petty, inherited rage. "You think a title gives you status here?" Elena sneered. "Status is something you're born with. It's not something you can buy with a silk dress." With a sudden, deliberate flick of her wrist, Elena tipped her glass. A dark, visceral wave of red wine splashed across the front of Naomi's cream dress. The liquid soaked into the silk, turning it jagged, bruised purple. The room went silent. The only sound was a soft tink-tink-tink of the chandelier crystals vibrating in the air. "Oh, how clumsy of me," Elena said, a triumphant smirk on her lips. "But then again, red wine always did belong on people like you." Security. 2 white security guards in black suits stepped forward from the shadows of the marble pillars. They moved with the cold, practiced efficiency of men paid to protect the circle from outsiders. "Please remove this woman," Elena commanded, gesturing to the stain on Naomi's chest. "She's making the room feel untidy." The lead guard reached for Naomi's arm, but he stopped when Naomi raised a single finger. She didn't look at the guard. She looked at Elena. "You should have kept the wine in the glass, Elena," Naomi said, "because now you've spilled the only thing keeping your circle afloat." Naomi didn't try to wipe the wine away. She stood in the center of the Solstice Room, the dark stain on her dress looking like a map of the war she was about to start. "Julian," Naomi said, looking toward the young man who had been sitting quietly at the table. The young man stood up. He wasn't a guest. He was Naomi's chief of staff. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a smartphone, but he wasn't recording a video. He was holding a live conference call. "We're live with the Board of Regents," Julian said. They saw everything. Naomi turned back to the room. The natural realism of the moment took hold. The guests who had been laughing moments ago suddenly realized the cameras in the room, the security feeds in Julian's phone, had captured a billionaire heiress committing a physical assault on a public official. Elena Sterling, Naomi began, her voice gaining a metallic edge that seemed to resonate with the gold leaf on the ceiling. As of 30 seconds ago, the Urban Trust has declared the Sterling family in breach of the character and conduct clause of your land lease. We are exercising our right of immediate reclamation. Elena's smirk didn't just fade, it evaporated. You can't do that. That clause is for criminal activity. Assault is a crime, Elena, and you just did it in front of 30 witnesses in a high-definition lens. Naomi replied. She looked at the other members of the Vanguard Circle. And for the rest of you, the Miller family, the Van Horns, the Whitakers, I suggest you check your phones. A series of chimes rang out across the ballroom. The elites reached for their devices. The trust doesn't just hold the Sterling lease. Naomi continued, walking slowly around the inner circle. We hold the debt on your development projects. And since the Vanguard Circle has proven itself to be a liability to the city's reputation, we are calling in the margins. Every single one of you is under review for immediate foreclosure. The room erupted into a jagged panic. The classic dignity of the Solstice Room shattered. Men in $10,000 suits were suddenly shouting into their phones, their faces turning the same shade of red as the wine on Naomi's dress. You're destroying us, one of the men shouted, over a glass of wine. No, Naomi said, stopping in front of Elena. I'm destroying you over the belief that you could pour your contempt on another human being and expect them to thank you for the rain. You didn't just pour wine on me, Elena. You poured it on the only person holding your world together. Naomi turned to the two white security guards. They were still standing there, but they were no longer looking at Elena for orders. They were looking at the floor. Gentlemen, Naomi said, Ms. Sterling has been banned from all trust-owned properties, effective immediately, since this building is a trust property. Please escort her to the sidewalk. She can wait for her car there. The guards hesitated for a fraction of a second, then turned toward Elena. They took her by the arms, the same way they had been prepared to take Naomi. Get your hands off me. Elena shrieked, her voice echoing pathetically against the massive chandeliers. But the guards didn't stop. They led her through the center of the ballroom, past the silent, terrified members of her circle who were too busy trying to save their own fortunes to look her in the eye. As Elena was led out into the cold night, Naomi walked to the center of the room. She picked up a fresh glass of water from a passing tray and took a calm, measured sip. Julian, she said, call the auditors. I want the Sterling keys on my desk by 8 a.m. The Solstice Room remained beautiful. The chandeliers still sparkled and the mahogany still glowed. But the power that had lived there for 100 years had vanished in a few seconds, washed away by a single glass of wine and the quiet authority of a woman who refused to be small.